Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to Gig. I'm your host, Mike Redman. In this part 4 of my series on AI and music, I had the chance to speak with Joshua Campbell. He's a really interesting guy, and his approach to AI and music is very unique. I learned so much talking with him, and I'm sure you will too. So, as always, let's jump right in. Hey, Joshua, how are you?
I'm doing great, Mike. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I just noticed when I saw your name, I was doing some research on LinkedIn and I saw Joshua Campbell, and that's, my family name too. I'm Redman, but the rest of my family is all Campbell. And I thought, well, there's a kindred soul who'll probably get
Yeah,
along really well and maybe go golfing
serendipity.
in Scotland or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
I don't know. I'm a terrible golfer. I don't know about you, but we can give it
well,
a.
I'm pretty terrible too, but I just think it's beautiful out there. So,
Oh yeah, no. Well,
so
let's
look,
sign me up. Let's do it.
this is a series about AI and music, and the reason I did this particular series is there's a lot of fear out there with musicians. I mean, back when I started, MIDI was a big deal. And everybody thought we were going to lose our jobs because this new computer thing. But I wanted to start, and hopefully, between you and another friend, we are going to talk about just AI itself, also talk about your company, but we also want to you guys are really kind of uniquely qualified to talk about it. So you've been in this AI space for a long, long time, and I just want to start with a couple of basics if we could. And
Sure.
one of them is, how would you explain AI to a musician, like in the simplest terms? What is it?
Yeah, I mean it's a very broad term that's
Hmm.
been maybe loaded is a better word.
Hmm.
But the way I would describe it, I mean, especially in the way that we think about it now, right, with something like ChatGPT or Suno, right, like kind of the music side of
Yeah.
it, is it's just a giant statistical model, right? Like you look at ChatGPT and it's like you take the entire internet and you
Uh-huh.
compress it down into a bunch of numbers, and then it just predicts the next word.
Ah.
So it's basically just statistics. I know it's very reductive, but that's essentially
Hmm.
what it is. And you can even say that about Suno too. It's right. I don't really know what they trade on. It seems like it's obvious. It's probably like Spotify and YouTube.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
same kind of thing, right? Where it predicts sort of the next little slice of
Hmm.
music just based on this compression of kind of all the music in the world.
Musicians and artists are kind of generally afraid of AI music,
Yeah.
largely because they don't understand it. So, what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions that musicians have about AI?
I mean, I think I don't know. I mean, I'm very candid. Like it
Hmm.
scares me too. Like I've been a musician my entire life.
Yeah.
We can
Uh-huh.
kind of get into what I do and how we do it. Spoiler alert: like we don't train on anybody else's anything.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, no, I mean, I definitely understand the fear, and I think like there are probably some misconceptions there, right? Like it's not thinking,
Hmm.
it's not necessarily creative. I think this will change as things go, right? Like right now, it has, I talk about like all of music and you compress it down in this little like ball of
Right.
numbers.
Uh-huh.
It can only kind of move around in that space, right? And
Yeah.
so maybe it can be like, okay, give me like John Coltrane gamelan music, and it'll
Hmm.
interpolate that. I've actually
Hmm.
tried that little one. It doesn't even sound like music right now, but it can't be creative, right?
Yeah.
And I think like ultimately it's going to be a tool, and ultimately I think like it's here.
Yeah.
You kind of have to get on board with it, right? And if you look at creating music, creating any kind of art, for me, it's
Hmm.
like technique is a big part of it, right? Like we've
Yeah.
trained these music our whole lives, 10,000 hours, all of that. But taste is a huge part too, right?
Hmm.
Like there are great technicians with poor taste, and there are great tastemakers with poor technique. And I think
Hmm.
AI is really going to eat up that part, right? Like
Yeah.
and as a person with, way too much musical training, like I'm good
Uh-huh.
with it, but I think it's going to kind of eat up that part, right? Like you can have your taste and you can kind of work with the AI to kind of bring that to life without having to do all of the technical side of it.
Yeah, I like that. I was talking to somebody just the other day, and they said, "You know what?" He says, "I look at AI as a way to go fast." He said, "You use Pro Tools now, and not Pro Tools, well, Pro Tools or Logic, and you're using sampled instruments. Well, they're just tools that allow you to have drums or to do this or that. And this, if you look at it as a tool for your creativity, it's there's nothing to be afraid of. You know,
Yeah. I mean, there's probably something to be afraid of. I think
yeah, yeah. I
I
think
don't
I
want to
think
be like all doom and gloom. I'm
yeah, yeah.
excited about it. I work in it. I'm, like I said,
Uh-huh.
musician my whole life. Like I'm very bullish on the entire thing. I think like the content floor is
Yeah,
going to get eaten up, right? Like the really cheap licensed music that you can, make a few dollars with on whatever site, like that
sure.
stuff is going to kind of go away.
Yep.
So if that's where you live, like heads up. But I think like there's going to be so much more content, but the
Hmm.
standard is going to be higher, and AI is going to enable kind of more powerful expressions
Yeah.
too.
Real quickly, I didn't have this as a question for you, but could you give us like the elevator version of your career and how you ended up here today?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, military brat, moved around all over the place. Always been
Hmm.
obsessed with kind of music and technology. Um, Thought I was going to be a music professor. I went to school for music here in Boulder, then moved to San Francisco for graduate school, and quickly realized that academia was not for me.
Mm-hmm.
I would go on Craigslist every day and be like musician, composer, just to find sort of side work as a poor grad student in San Francisco, and ended up as an overnight moderator at a chat room for kids. They called it a
Oh,
music-based
that's
MMO, but
interesting. Yeah.
it wasn't any of those things. But kind of just fell back asswards into the game industry, where I worked for
Hmm.
like 12, 13 years.
Really
Um,
interesting.
yeah, from there moved to more of a general kind of tech company. Started like at literally at the bottom, been an
Hmm.
executive in sort of the tech space for like 6 years. But I've been working at this startup full time for 2 years.
So, simple music generation. It's getting better day by day, but there's also a lot of other tools, like for mixing, mastering, for professional artists and stuff. Do you have any thoughts, or I think that we're going to start leading into what you do, but do you see AI in a lot of other tools now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that for as a musician, like I think that
Hmm.
stuff is incredible. Like I
Yeah.
remember way before this big explosion, I had an investor at my company ask me like, "Oh, could you just like train on Miles, like feed it a bunch of Miles Davis and like make Miles Davis?"
Uh-huh.
And the analogy I use is like, well, no, like you can't really destem it, right? It's like pulling a whole carrot out of a soup, right? Like once it's
Yeah,
mixed.
that's funny. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
That's
it turns out I was entirely wrong about that.
you can do that
So
now. Yeah.
yeah, just the magic that you can do with this stuff from just kind of the tool side, I think
Hmm.
is incredible. And I would also be remiss to not mention, like being a musician, there's a lot more that goes to it, right? Like
Hmm.
ideation and marketing and like dealing with labels and
Yeah.
strategizing, all of this. Just ChatGPT or anything like it, Claude, pick your poison. Really incredible for that kind of stuff too. So
Hmm.
I would encourage anyone listening here to really dive into that stuff if you haven't. Yes,
Hmm.
there will be all kinds of cool music creation stuff, but just the power for it to kind of enhance the maybe more mundane side of being a
Hmm.
musician or human in the
Sure.
world is really powerful too.
What you do, your new product, your passion,
Yeah.
melismatic, right? Is that how
Yes,
you pronounce
melismatic.
it?
Yep, that's how you pronounce it. And the general idea is that it's generative music
Hmm.
that is controllable, right? So you
Okay.
can get into the composer and say, like, I want it to be like this,
Hmm.
but you machine decide this in these ways.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's real time and interactive, right? And
Hmm.
so we've been trying to, I've sort of collected smart people over the
Hmm.
years
Hmm.
to kind of work on this with me. But about 3 or 4 years ago, we were like, let's make a business out of this. So it was like, okay, you have this interactive music generator that can adapt to a data stream, maybe is a way to think about it. What is the data stream? Like, how do we build a product around that, right?
Hmm.
Our initial thought was actually game development, and there are some companies that are doing similar stuff right now.
Hmm.
Because three of the four of us kind of come from that, like I mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the idea is like, okay, players' health gets lower, music gets more intense, right? You can sort of
Yeah.
apply.
I like that. It's the nonlinear thinking of music. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Built a prototype, playable, super cool. Kind of hit some business model issues, and this kind of
Hmm.
touches on our earlier conversation where it's like, okay, I'm selling this to game composers. Great
Hmm.
job, lots of people want it. These guys like entrench forever, which I totally understand,
Yeah.
because like they're hard jobs to get and they're really good jobs. And I'm selling them like, hey, you don't have to do your job anymore, right? Like use this instead. Like, okay, this is not a business, right?
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, we need to do something else. And we like one thing we really believe at Melismatic is like kind of do no harm. Like we want it to
Hmm.
be something that's good for people. We don't want to train on everyone else's music.
Right.
We don't want to be taking game composers' jobs or anyone else. So that was like
Hmm.
sort of a failed launch. Uh, so we pivoted, and so you think
Hmm.
about like, okay, what of these data streams is like the most kind of interesting and impactful? And what we
Hmm.
arrived at was human biometrics.
Okay.
Everyone has them. There's an immense amount of science around like, here's how music maps to
Sure.
this kind of music parameter maps to this sort of human
Hmm.
biological parameter,
Hmm.
right? So like brain state, respiration, emotional state, blood pressure, heart rate, on and on and
Right.
on. There's like this is all very possible to be influenced with music because like why do we listen to music? Like to change how we feel. But I think like
Hmm.
on a more kind of close to the metal side, it's like we do it to affect our biology.
Hmm.
And it's very personalized, right? Like something that might make you want to dance might
Yeah.
make me mad, or vice versa, or
Make you
whatever.
pass out. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So what we're building is we're taking this technology that I described, and we are building an app where anytime you're reaching for music to do something, right? You're not going to go to Red Rocks and listen to our app, but if you're, focus, sleep,
Yeah.
exercise, meditate, we did deliver personalized music for you according to your
Hmm.
preferences. You kind of give us a starting point. You can kind of season it to
Sure.
taste, and then it reacts to your biometrics, whether that's like your sleep stage, your breath
Hmm.
rate, your pace while you're running,
Hmm.
and it measures it, right? It's like, okay, he ran for 5 minutes longer with a bossa nova beat instead of a calypso beat. About
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
so let's lead into that, right? So it kind of
Hmm.
learns to help you with music the more you use it. So that's sort of a
Mm.
general, maybe long-winded story of
No,
kind
I
of
can see this.
building.
This is cool. Can you talk just a little bit about copyrights and all of this?
Yeah.
How that kind of fits into this whole AI thing? Because I think a lot of people are just think people are stealing my music or whatever.
hmm Yeah, I mean, I get it. I feel personally, again, we're getting into opinion territory,
No,
that
no, it's all opinion. Everything we talk about, by the way, is opinion.
people should be compensated for their work, if even if
Yes.
that work is getting put into this model. And
Hmm.
and there's a lot of talk from people like Suno who are like, oh well, we don't actually, like, you can't recreate anything like this, but they're getting sued, and they basically resurrected Johnny Cash in the model just by
Yeah.
prompting it the right way, right? Like, that's sort of unavoidable. So I think, I mean, our existing copyright laws are not prepared for this.
Hmm.
They're just not, and things will have to change. I'm not going to get into politics, but like,
No.
guys
Yeah.
got to figure it out, and not, I don't. Your level of faith may vary there, but it needs to be redone, because right now, like, that's exactly what's happening. Is like people are benefiting off of artists' work, and they're not being compensated for it, and that fundamentally is wrong to me.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know what the solution is. Like, I'm not the guy to fix this, but I do think that there has to be transparency around training data, right?
Hmm.
Like, that's not a law right now. That's not required. I
Hmm.
think like these music generators should be able to be like, okay, here's the million tracks that we trained on,
Right.
and then everyone in there should get something, or should
Hmm.
be able to opt
Hmm.
in or opt out. And when they opt in, there should be some form of compensation there.
I like that part. I like that one.
Yeah,
That sounds like, yeah,
yeah.
it's a
How
kind of
that works,
natural.
yeah, right. It makes perfect sense. I don't know how you have build a business when I'm having to, like, I'm trained on a million different artists, and they all get a quarter every time
Yeah.
we use their thing 10 times. I mean, it's not that big of a number, but like, I don't know how that works, but it doesn't right now. It doesn't, I guess. Is my
So
point.
you said that you don't train melismatic on artists or other music sources. How do you train?
Yeah, so our approach is a little bit different. I mean, one thing you'll see with a lot of these LLM based ones
Hmm.
is you type something in, you sort of pull the slot machine, it bakes
Hmm.
for 30 seconds or whatever, and you get a track back.
Hmm.
And maybe it's what you wanted, maybe not, maybe it's good, maybe not. Ours is much more predictable, and so there are advantages to how we do it, which is,
Hmm.
rather than training on like a million whatevers,
Hmm.
ours is much more bespoke. So we're all technical musicians on the team. We have
Hmm.
several composers that work with us on contract, and we write music, our own training data for that. And we also, when I say other people's stuff, there is an exception to that, which
Yeah.
is we'll do public domain.
Okay.
Think like Bach, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Sure.
yeah, shout out to JS Bach, my boy. Because and the reason we do that is, rather than teaching it like, okay, here's a bunch of music, just mimic this. We
Yeah.
take the MIDI and we train it on the MIDI, but even more so than that, there's another step where we basically label it with music theory concepts. So like,
Mm.
like you have an F over a C chord. It's not just like,
Sure.
okay, these notes happening here. It's like, okay, this is a 4/3. It's probably a suspension, and like, here's the
Hmm.
context of the melody, here's the context in the larger harmonic structure, and it really learns these theory concepts more than
Hmm.
literal notes or events, I guess, in the music space.
Hmm.
So at the end of the day, we train on this data format. So it's
Hmm.
more like, here's how this music works from a music theory perspective, and then we can
Hmm.
kind of feed it. It's like, okay, well, it doesn't have like secondary dominance as a concept.
Yeah.
Like, let's just compose a bunch of these, and we'll even like write AI or scripts to like compose this sort of training data and feed
Hmm.
that into the thing. So then on the other side, it creates MIDI based on these rules and these ideas that we teach it, rather
Hmm.
than like literal music.
That's really interesting. So the idea that you're not using an LLM I think is fascinating anyway, but in and of itself. So, so you do these things, and I was a composer too, so you're looking at how music affects mood and different colors and everything. But how do you actually train it then? I don't understand that.
Well, I mean, I guess we there is an LLM sort of under the hood, and
Hmm.
I guess it's not really. It's more of a neural network, right? So there is
Hmm.
still machine learning. That's part of
Yes.
it.
Okay.
We're just not going out to like OpenAI or a
Oh,
lot of these
gotcha.
stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's still like a machine learning component to it, but it's
Hmm.
like our own much smaller network that we train ourselves.
I see. Did you? So it was obviously a conscious decision not to use an LLM on the front end of it. Is there any specific reason why you didn't, or is it just the
Well,
fact that you were more scientifically doing the numbers on the music, right?
yeah, I mean, we've definitely explored the LLM stuff. I mean, a big
Hmm.
part of it is just like what we built predated all of these LLMs kind of
Oh, gotcha, gotcha.
miraculously rising out of the ocean.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
I also think like an LLM isn't going to get us the real time nature that we need, right? That's
yeah.
really the crux of it. I mean, I think like we've definitely tried. We've done all kinds of experiments with the LLMs, and they're only going to get faster and better. And I'm
Hmm.
not here to just like dump on them. Like once they get to the point where we can use them in the way that we want, like it's going to be
Yeah,
amazing. And our
yeah.
our app does a lot of spoken word content too,
Hmm.
and that's all done with LLMs. So I'm not like anti
Oh,
LLM.
gotcha.
It's
Uh-huh.
just for the musical piece, music is so precise and
Yeah.
so time based that that part needs to be very controlled.
I think that's really cool. Very different. It's just different than the people I've talked to. I've got some really good people in this series, so you'll see them and you go, oh, I probably know that guy.
Yeah, yeah.
So, in your opinion, Joshua, what are some of the biggest challenges facing professional musicians in the world in the time of AI music generation as it gets better and better?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of challenges. I mean, I think just, being a musician in general is very
Hmm.
challenging.
Hmm.
Um, like I never intended on going into tech and having a career there. It's just sort of how it worked out for me. And I've always kind of stayed attached to music. And, if I could pick, that's all I would be doing.
Sure.
So I think it's already difficult. And I don't think that's not music's fault. It's our
Hmm.
culture maybe doesn't value it in the way that I wish it did. And it's nobody's fault, but it's the way that it is. So I think this is going to bring new challenges and new opportunities.
Hmm.
On the challenge side, I think, like I said before, it's like there's just going to be so much content. You've probably
Right.
heard this term like AI slop, right? It's like the
No,
internet
I
is
actually haven't. Nope.
okay, yeah. So you look at like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter,
Yeah.
uh, just blogs, Google searches. Like there's all this stuff that is almost certainly AI generated.
Oh,
Like the
yeah.
amount of content just that's out there is ballooning
Yeah.
because it's so easy to create, and that's going to happen to music too. I think
Hmm.
music is sort of harder to model in a lot of ways, and
Hmm.
I think it's like a year or two behind things like text or image generation, and that'll probably be true for a while, but it's going to get there where people could just be like, like give me a reggae song about my dog with a 140 BPM, and like that's
I
what you
think
got.
that's already here, and they
It
and
is. It
it writes
is.
the lyrics for you too.
It
Yeah,
does. No, they're amazing, but they're not very good.
yeah. They're not very good. They're not.
They're going to get to
They're
the point
still.
where you're going to be like, is this AI or not?
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And maybe we're already there. So I think the point I'm driving at from the challenge side is differentiating and kind of cutting through the noise is already hard,
Hmm.
and it's only getting harder. I think the flip side of that is like it is democratizing in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
Like me, right? Like crappy mixer, but like I'll soon that won't be a weakness anymore because I can have an AI do it for me and I can lean
Right.
into my strengths. And I think everyone's going to have their own version of that.
Hmm.
So the opportunity lies in really embracing these tools, staying current on them,
Hmm.
and really kind of like finding your own voice within that because I think AI is going to help you with that in the
Hmm.
long term. But in the short term, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's creativity in general is kind of turned on its head, and not to get like too esoteric, but like I
Hmm.
think what is human, right, is going to be
Yeah.
turned on its head as
Yeah.
like what is consciousness as these things get better and better. So there's a lot of very interesting questions and challenges ahead of I think us as a species, to be honest.
I think that's a great answer. Thank you. There's somebody else I was talking to had mentioned. They said, "Look, you can look at this thing totally different. Is it's nothing but opportunity. For a band to use AI to manage its fan base, to grow its fan base by itself. Some really, they said the people that are really innovative are going to find great ways to use this that were never ever thought of. And so, in some way, it'll really enhance the music business. But I get, maybe it goes back to what you said earlier about, if you write music and you're really not that good and it's pretty basic and stuff like that, it is going to affect you because it's going to be able to do what you do, but better. And also, AI doesn't do concerts; they don't do tours yet.
Yeah, and I think there's something like really, I don't know, humans like watching humans do things.
Yeah, yeah.
There's this analogy I like to use, again, showing my nerd. I'm a chess fan, not a great player, but I like chess and have played my whole life. There's this concept of computers have been better at us than this for decades, right? Like Deep Blue, Gary Kasparov.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Even now, it's like my iPhone could crush the best chess player 10 out of 10 times, just the way that it works. Do people just watch computers play each other? No. I mean, there are like that exists, and some people are into it. I'm not meaning to disparage that, but the heat's really all around humans going head to head, and like the flaws in there make it interesting. And there's this idea of a centaur chess, like half horse, half human, and it's this form of chess where it's human on human, but they both have the computer with them to help them make decisions.
Oh, interesting.
And a lot of times, this can beat the computer itself, just because it has like this human kind of vision and creativity and decision making. And that the soul of the human is still in it, but they don't make any mistakes because the computer won't let them. And I think there's probably a future in music that is like that, right? Where it's like you can still have your taste, right? Your vision, like that's what makes you human. But the computer helps you bring it to life.
Yeah, that's that's very interesting to say that. You have I like talking to you. I've been writing a novel now for about a year.
Oh, cool.
And I use ChatGPT a lot to analyze what I'm writing, say, what's good, what's bad. It's incredibly useful as a tool. I could have just said, write the book and told it what the book was about, but it is, for me, it's a human experience, all of that, but just using it as pieces and parts for, help, I guess. I don't know. Just a couple more things. First, I have to ask you a little bit about your music. What kind of music do you write? What's your main instrument? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. So grew up as a pianist. Had my first lesson when I was 5. Loved it. Didn't have to be harassed to practice. So it's really been keys the whole time. I dabble in other instruments, like predictable ones like guitar, bass, a little accordion, less predictable, but mostly keys. I did a lot of songwriting when I was younger. In school I wrote what you would like string quartets and orchestras and more kind of classical ensembles. These days I don't get as much time for it as I would like. But I'm really more into, or what I'm exploring, I guess, is more sort of like in the EDM space. The stereo I'm operating on is like, my music tends to be the stuff I would write, at least when I was younger in school. It's like a little weird, right? Like weird and beautiful were sort of like two adjectives that people would use for my music. I wouldn't say it was super approachable.
Sure.
So I've never really made like dance music, but I love to listen to it. So the idea is like, if I can make like a really amazing beat that like the kind that you have to move to, right? I think we all.
Yeah.
If I can do that, then I can layer on like all my weird stuff too, but still have something that's like really driven that my kids will like to listen to. That's like interesting. So that's sort of what I'm exploring right now, but not super seriously, just because of time.
How old are your kids?
I have 2 daughters, 11 and 8 next week.
Okay. Yeah, they're kind of hard to impress at that age, but
yeah.
So, Dad, you sound right. Yeah. So, okay, here, this one's, if your sister was, an artist and worried about not having a career in music because AI was going to replace her, what might you tell her?
I would say embrace it. Like if you really want to go do that, it's not going to be easy. Never has been. This is not going to make it easier. But the things that you'll be able to make if you really dive in with this stuff and grow with it, because we're just in the beginning, will be just incredible, more so than what would have been possible before. So if you really look at it as an optimist, if you look at it as opportunity and tooling, then you're going to be okay. But like the worst thing you can do is run away from it and kind of fight it and pretend, like it doesn't exist. Like the rules will have to change. The laws will have to change. It's not fair right now. I hope we can fix that. Like that part is a major problem, and I'm not trying to dismiss that.
Hmm.
But it's out of the box. Like no law
Yeah,
or protest
that's
or
true.
strike is going to put it back in the box.
Yeah.
Even if it should be. I don't want
Hmm.
to state too strong of an opinion on that. But I think the only choice is to just lean in, and that's what I'm doing, both with my company and with just any tool that we like. You used to use ChatGPT to write. I use it
Yeah.
every day for hours
Yeah.
for all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Anything from like cooking to planning to writing investor
It's great
updates.
for cooking, isn't it?
It is.
I don't want to look through 400 recipes. Just give me the
Oh,
very best one.
yeah.
Well, yeah,
Go ahead.
that's cool. Well, Joshua, I just want to thank you for giving me your time. I know you have to head off to the airport. So let's stay in touch. I will send you a little information about RoX and some things like that. And I appreciate all of your candor and the best of luck with Melismatic, brother.
Great. Thanks very much, Mike. I'd love to keep in touch. We did just soft launch our app, so I'd love to if we could
Oh,
plug that somehow.
I will. I will not only plug it. I will download it and see how it
Okay,
works.
great. Well, I'll send you a link. But yeah,
Oh, do
iOS,
that.
US only right now. But
Okay.
yeah, check it out. It's a very small beginning of kind of
They,
what we're trying to build, but I think it's pretty cool.
it's where you said earlier. It all starts somewhere.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Take care, brother.
Thanks,
See you
Mike.
later. Okay.
Yeah.
Bye bye.